The calm before the storm. The galaxy had known peace for years. The Zorath Empire, the largest and most powerful force in the universe, had crushed all their enemies. Their warships were unmatched, their soldiers fierce, and their rule unchallenged. The galaxy trembled under their shadow, and no one dared to defy them. The Zorath's control stretched across countless star systems, and their fleet was a terrifying symbol of power. But on the edge of the galaxy, beyond the Zorath's reach, a quiet secret was being kept. A single human ship, small and insignificant compared to the mighty Zorath fleet, was being prepared in the dark depths of space. The Revenant, they called it. It was a ship like no other, designed with old, forgotten technology that humanity had once used long ago. It was built for a single purpose: to strike back. The humans had been crushed long ago, their cities burned, and their fleets destroyed. The Zorath believed that Earth was nothing more than a distant memory, a lost world with no survivors. But they were wrong. One ship, one human ship, was all that was needed to change everything. Inside a hidden station far from the prying eyes of the Zorath, a crew of humans worked tirelessly. They had lived in the shadows for years, training, planning, and building. They knew that the galaxy had forgotten them, but they had not forgotten the injustice done to their people. They would make the Zorath pay. The humans had been underestimated, and they would soon show the galaxy why that was a fatal mistake. The crew of the Revenant was small, but their resolve was unshakable. They had faced loss, grief, and hardship. They had watched their world burn, and now they were the last hope for their species. They were determined to fight back, no matter the odds. As the ship's engines powered up for the first time, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The crew knew this was only the beginning. They would not go down without a fight. The Revenant was not just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's survival, a testament to their will to fight, and a warning to the Zorath Empire. The humans knew they were up against an empire that had crushed entire civilizations, but they had something the Zorath didn't: the element of surprise. The Zorath had no idea that humanity had survived. They thought they had wiped out the human race, but the truth was different. The humans had waited for this moment, biding their time, gathering strength, and now they were ready to strike. As the ship slowly moved into position, the crew could feel the weight of their mission. The first strike would be crucial. It had to be perfect. There could be no mistakes. They would show the Zorath that humans were not as weak as they thought. The Revenant was small compared to the Zorath warships, but it was fast and highly maneuverable. Its weapons were outdated by Zorath standards, but they were powerful enough to get the job done. More importantly, the humans had learned how to fight with precision and intelligence, using their smaller size and speed to their advantage. They would hit fast, strike hard, and disappear before the Zorath even knew what had happened. The crew worked together with silent efficiency. The captain, a seasoned veteran of the old human fleet, stood at the helm, his eyes scanning the vast emptiness of space. He knew this mission was the most important one of his life. Failure was not an option. In the depths of space, the first part of their plan was set into motion. The Revenant would strike at a Zorath supply station located in a remote corner of the galaxy. It was a small target, but it was crucial. Destroying it would send a message the Zorath could not ignore. The crew held their breath as they approached the station. They could see the Zorath ships in the distance, unaware of the danger that was about to hit them. The tension was thick in the air. Everything had been planned to perfection. But in war, nothing was ever certain. The captain's voice echoed through the ship. All systems ready. Prepare for the attack. The Revenant moved closer, its engines silent in the cold of space. The Zorath station loomed larger, its massive structure glowing faintly in the darkness. The crew could feel the adrenaline rush through their veins. This was it, the calm before the storm. With one final glance at his crew, the captain gave the order. Fire. The ship's weapons came to life. unleashing a volley of energy bolts that hit the Zoreth station with devastating force. The station's shields flickered and failed under the barrage. Explosions erupted as the station's reactors went critical. Within seconds, the supply station was nothing more than a burning wreckage drifting in space. The crew of the Revenant breathed a collective sigh of relief. The first strike had been a success, but it was only the beginning. The Zoreth Empire would soon realize that their reign of terror was over. Humanity had returned, and they would stop at nothing to reclaim their place in the stars. As the Revenant turned and vanished into the darkness, the captain stood tall, a sense of purpose in his heart. This was just the start of their revenge. The galaxy would soon know fear, not from the Zoreth, but from humanity. The storm had begun. The first blood. The Revenant was already miles away, its stealth systems activated, hiding it in the black void of space. The crew of the small human warship had struck first, and now they were watching the aftermath of their attack unfold. The Zoreth supply station was nothing more than a field of debris. The first wave of their revenge was complete. But this wasn't the time to celebrate. The humans knew that the Zoreth Empire would not sit idly by after such an attack. They would retaliate, and their retaliation would be swift and brutal. The galaxy was vast, and the Zoreth had an army that could crush any opposition. The humans knew that even if they took down one station, they were far from safe. On board the Revenant, the crew watched in silence as their ship moved deeper into the shadows of space. The captain, Marcus Cole, stood at the helm, his face grim. His crew had performed flawlessly, but the real challenge was yet to come. They had made their first move, but now they had to prepare for the Zoreth's response. "We've only just begun," Captain Cole muttered under his breath. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, a sense of knowing that this small victory would ignite a war they weren't sure they could win. The ship's communications officer, Lieutenant Ava Kim, looked over at the captain. "Sir, we've detected Zoreth ships moving toward the site of the attack. They're responding faster than we anticipated." Cole's eyes narrowed. They're going to want revenge, and they're not going to let this go easily. "Should we retreat?" Kim asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. The crew knew the risks, and they all understood that they were walking a fine line. If the Zoreth found them, it would be the end of the Revenant, and the end of humanity's chance for vengeance. "No," Cole replied firmly. "We're not running. Not now. Not ever. We'll stay hidden and strike when we can. They won't know what hit them." The crew nodded, their faces hardening with resolve. They were not the kind of people to retreat. The galaxy had taken everything from them, and now it was time for payback. The Revenant moved silently through the cold expanse of space, its advanced cloaking systems making it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. But despite the stealth of their ship, the crew knew that the Zoreth Empire would stop at nothing to find them. They had made their first blood, and now the Zoreth would come with all their might. As hours passed, the crew worked in tense silence. They knew that at any moment, the Zoreth could strike back. Their mission was simple: survive. Survive long enough to make the Zoreth pay for every world they had destroyed. But survival wasn't easy in a galaxy controlled by the Empire. They couldn't afford to make mistakes. Not now. Ava Kim's voice broke through the tense silence. "Sir, we're detecting a massive fleet of Zoreth ships entering the system. They're coming for us." "Ready the weapons," Captain Cole ordered, his voice calm but resolute. "We don't run. We fight." The crew prepared for what was coming. The Zoreth ships would be massive, their firepower unmatched. But the Revenant had one advantage. The humans knew how to fight smart. They weren't going to take on the whole fleet head-on. They would strike with precision, hit them where it hurt, and vanish before the Zoreth knew what happened. The Zoreth ships grew closer, their massive shadows filling the screens of the Revenant. The crew's hearts beat faster, their adrenaline rising. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Cole commanded, his voice steady. We hit them fast and hard. Let's make them regret thinking they could conquer humanity." The first Zoreth ship came into range, its massive guns aimed directly at the Revenant. But the humans were ready. In a flash, the Revenant darted to the side, dodging the Zoreth's deadly fire. The ship's weapons came to life, sending a barrage of fire at the Zoreth vessel. The Zoreth ship's shields flickered under the assault, but it held, just barely. Captain Cole's grip tightened on the controls. No time for hesitation. Hit them again. The Revenant darted again, this time using its small size to its advantage. The Zoreth ships were larger and slower, their movements predictable. The Revenant was a small, agile warship that could weave through the Zoreth's fire like a ghost. It wasn't a fair fight, but the humans had the element of surprise, and they weren't going to waste it. One by one, the Zoreth ships fell. The humans were fast, precise, and relentless. Each strike from the Revenant caused massive damage, and the Zoreth began to realize that this wasn't just some random attack, it was humanity's revenge. But the Zoreth weren't giving up easily. Their fleet regrouped, their ships charging in formation, ready to take down the human ship once and for all. Captain Cole knew that they had to act quickly. The longer they stayed in the fight, the more chances the Zoreth had to retaliate. "We need to move," Cole said, his voice urgent. "We've made our mark. Now we vanish." With that, the Revenant turned and disappeared into the depths of space. The Zoreth ships continued their pursuit, but they were too late. The humans had already vanished into the shadows. The first blood had been spilled, but the war was just beginning. The Zoreth would not let this go, and the humans knew they were just one ship against an entire empire. But as the Revenant disappeared into the darkness, the crew of humanity's last warship knew one thing. They would never stop fighting. Not until every last Zoreth fleet was destroyed, and their revenge was complete. In this second part, the humans faced the first retaliation from the Zoreth Empire. The story builds tension, showing the human crew's determination and resourcefulness, setting the stage for the larger conflict ahead. Simple and clear language is used to keep the narrative engaging and accessible. The battle intensifies. The Revenant had barely escaped the Zoreth fleet's first wave, its sleek form vanishing into the endless dark of space. For now, the humans were safe, but only for a moment. The Zoreth Empire was ruthless, and they would never stop hunting them. The crew of the Revenant knew that the battle was far from over. Captain Cole paced the command deck, his mind racing. Every decision he made could determine the fate of the entire mission. They had dealt the first blow, but now they had to prepare for the full force of the Zoreth's wrath. "We've made them angry," Lieutenant Kim said, her voice laced with concern as she studied the ship's scanners. "They've regrouped. More ships are on the way." Cole nodded grimly. "They'll come for us in full force. We need to be ready for them." The Revenant was outnumbered, outgunned, and outclassed by the Zoreth fleet. But it had one advantage. The humans had the will to fight back, even when all seemed lost. Captain Cole wasn't about to let humanity's final hope slip away. Not after everything they had lost. "Set course for the asteroid field," Cole ordered. "We'll use it to our advantage. They won't be able to track us if we hide in the debris." The crew scrambled to follow the orders. The asteroid field was dense, filled with floating rocks and dense clouds of space dust. It was a perfect place to lose the Zoreth fleet, but only if they could get there in time. As they entered the field, the Revenant maneuvered carefully, weaving through massive asteroids with expert precision. The ship's hull scraped past jagged rock formations, but they managed to stay hidden in the chaotic mess of the field. For a moment, it seemed like they had successfully evaded the Zoreth, but Captain Cole wasn't fooling himself. The Zoreth were relentless. They wouldn't give up that easily. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple Zoreth ships on our tail," Lieutenant Kim reported. "They're closing in on our position. How long until they reach us?" Cole asked, his voice steady despite the mounting pressure. "Less than 15 minutes. That was not enough time. The Revenant was fast, but it couldn't outrun the entire Zoreth fleet. They had to fight, or they wouldn't make it out alive. "We can't let them catch us," Cole said, determination in his voice. "We're going to fight back." The crew braced for impact as the Zoreth ships neared. The Revenant had already taken damage in the previous skirmish, but they had enough firepower to make the Zoreth think twice. They were the last line of defense for humanity's revenge, and they weren't going down without a fight. The first Zoreth ship broke through the asteroid field, its weapons locked on the Revenant. The massive warship fired, sending a deadly beam of energy towards the human ship, but the Revenant was ready. It quickly shifted course, narrowly avoiding the attack. The energy beam hit an asteroid behind them, shattering it into thousands of pieces. "We've got incoming fire," Kim shouted. "They're not wasting any time." "Return fire," Cole commanded. "Hit them where it hurts." The Revenant fired back with all its might. The ship's plasma cannons shot out brilliant bursts of energy, targeting the Zoreth ships as they closed in. The first Zoreth vessel exploded into a fiery ball of destruction, its remains scattering through the asteroid field. But there were more ships coming, and they weren't slowing down. The Revenant fired again, hitting another Zoreth warship dead center. The impact was devastating, and the enemy ship was torn apart in a violent explosion. The crew cheered, but Cole knew better. They had only destroyed 2 of the Zoreth ships, and more were on the way. They needed a strategy, something to give them the edge in this battle. The asteroid field might give them temporary cover, but it wouldn't be enough to win the fight. "We need to split their forces," Cole said, eyes scanning the screen. "Lieutenant, can you create a diversion?" Kim quickly analyzed the situation. "I can use the asteroid field to our advantage. If I trigger a few explosions in strategic locations, I can cause chaos and scatter their fleet." "Do it," Cole ordered. "Make it count." Kim nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. She launched a series of controlled explosions in different sections of the asteroid field, sending rocks tumbling into space. The explosions were timed perfectly, creating confusion and forcing the Zoreth fleet to split up. The Zoreth ships struggled to reorganize, and the Revenant used the opportunity to strike again, picking off ships one by one. The crew fought with everything they had. Each shot fired a testament to their determination. They weren't just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for the future of humanity. "Sir, we've destroyed 4 ships, but more are coming," Kim reported. "We can't keep this up forever." "We don't need to," Cole replied. "We just need to make them fear us. Once they realize we're not backing down, they'll rethink their next move." With another blast, the Revenant tore through the hull of a third Zoreth ship. The enemy fleet was taking heavy losses, but it wasn't over yet. They still had to get out of this alive. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Cole ordered. "We're going to take the fight to them one last time." The Revenant surged forward, its engines roaring as it launched into the heart of the Zoreth fleet. The crew braced for impact as the battle raged on around them. This was humanity's last stand, and they would not go down without a fight. In this third part, the battle intensifies as the humans fight back against the Zoreth Empire. The tension rises as the Revenant uses its speed and cunning to take on the Zoreth fleet, showing that the humans may be outnumbered, but they are not outmatched. The story is fast-paced, keeping the audience engaged with action and suspense. Simple language ensures that the narrative is accessible while building excitement for the next part of the story. The tide turns. The battle had escalated to a fever pitch. The Revenant, once a small speck against the vastness of space, now stood at the forefront of humanity's last hope against the Zoreth Empire. Captain Cole's mind raced, constantly calculating their next move. Every decision counted. With every Zoreth ship they destroyed, they knew another wave was waiting just beyond the horizon. "2 more ships on our tail, Captain," Lieutenant Kim reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "They're locking onto us." Cole's fingers tightened around the armrest of his chair. The Revenant had taken damage, its shields barely holding up after the last barrage of fire from the enemy fleet. The Zorath were ruthless, and their numbers seemed endless. But the humans, no, his crew, weren't going to back down. Evade, Cole barked. Get us out of their line of sight. Now. Kim worked the controls with precision, guiding the Revenant through the asteroid field at breakneck speed. It was a risky move, but there was no other option. The ship's hull groaned under the pressure as they squeezed between two massive asteroids, narrowly avoiding collision. The Zorath ships, unable to navigate as quickly through the debris, were losing ground, but they were relentless. They're persistent, Kim muttered, glancing at the flashing redouts. They'll catch up soon. We need more time. Cole didn't respond immediately. His eyes were fixed on the distant horizon of space, where more enemy ships were appearing on the scanner. The Revenant was still outnumbered, yet there was something in the air now. A shift, a feeling of hope. The Zorath were powerful, yes, but humanity had proven that they could fight back. Something the Zorath hadn't expected. Captain, Kim said again, this time more urgently. I've got an idea. Cole turned toward her. I'm listening. What if we can trigger a chain reaction? There's a large gas giant nearby. One of the moons has been left uncharted. If we can launch a series of targeted strikes, we can cause a massive explosion. The debris from the gas giant's moon will scatter and blind their sensors, giving us the chance to escape. The plan sounded dangerous, but it was their best shot. Make it happen, Cole said firmly. We don't have much time. Kim's fingers flew over the controls. Her eyes narrowed as she aimed the ship's weapons at the moon, calculating the precise angle for maximum damage. The Zorath ships were closing in, and the pressure was mounting. Cole could hear his own heartbeat in his ears, but he didn't flinch. Ready when you are, Captain, Kim reported. Fire. The Revenant unleashed a salvo of missiles that streaked toward the moon. The explosions were blinding, and for a moment, Cole wondered if the gamble had been worth it. The missiles tore through the surface, creating a series of devastating blasts. A large chunk of the moon shattered, sending massive pieces of rock and debris into space, creating an impenetrable cloud of dust and debris. The Zorath ships were momentarily blinded by the explosion. Their sensors failed to pick up the Revenant's movement as the human ship darted out of the cloud and into the deep reaches of space. Did it work? Kim asked, her voice tense. Cole stared at the screen. The Zorath fleet was in disarray, their ships veering off course to avoid the debris. Some of them were even colliding with smaller asteroids, their pilots unable to navigate through the thick cloud of destruction. The Revenant had gained precious moments, but how long could they maintain the lead? We've bought ourselves some time, Cole said, though his voice betrayed the uncertainty gnawing at him. But we're not out of the woods yet. The Revenant moved swiftly through the dust cloud, but Cole knew they couldn't keep running forever. The Zorath Empire wasn't one to let an enemy escape. Soon, they would come for them again. As the dust began to settle, Lieutenant Kim reported the damage. Shields are at 60%. Hull integrity is at 40%. We're still functional, but we can't take much more. Understood, Cole replied. He gritted his teeth, thinking fast. They had to hit the Zorath where it would hurt. They had to make the Zorath fear them. I need a way to take down their flagship. Cole muttered more to himself than anyone else. Kim hesitated, then spoke up. There's an old tactic we could try. A pinpoint strike to the heart of their fleet. Target their communication array. If we disrupt their command center, the rest of the fleet will fall into disarray. Cole nodded. Make it happen. But as Kim prepared the targeting system, an alarming new message flashed across the screen. Captain, multiple incoming Zorath warships. This time, they're bringing the big guns. Great, Cole muttered. Let's give them a surprise they'll never forget. A shocking revelation. The Revenant was in deep space, the stars twinkling coldly around them. The battle had already stretched their endurance to its limits. Captain Cole and his crew were warned, but the fight was far from over. Their last victory had only delayed the inevitable. The Zorath Empire had regrouped, and this time they were coming at them with everything they had. Kim was at her station, monitoring the incoming warships on the scanner. The numbers were staggering. "Captain," she said, her voice steady but laced with concern, "we've got at least 20 warships closing in. They've brought reinforcements. We're outnumbered." Cole's eyes never left the view screen. The Revenant had been pushed to the brink, but there was still a fire burning inside him, a fire that refused to let them surrender. "Stay calm," Cole commanded, his voice a beacon of authority. "We've got the advantage of surprise. Let's use it." He stood up from his chair, pacing as he considered their options. The Zorath were fierce and technologically superior. But humanity had something they didn't: resilience, the drive to fight back, to survive against all odds. They were more than just soldiers now. They were the last line of defense for Earth, for their very existence. As Cole thought, Lieutenant Kim suddenly spoke up. "Captain, there's something strange. I've been getting a signal. It's faint, but it's coming from behind the Zorath fleet, almost as if someone is trying to communicate with us." The sudden mention of the signal caught Cole's attention. He turned sharply to Kim. "Are you sure?" "Yes, Captain. It's an encrypted message. It's not Zorath." Cole's heart skipped a beat. Not Zorath. That meant one thing: an ally or a trap. "Run it through. Let's hear it," Cole ordered. Kim worked quickly, trying to decode the signal. As the scrambled transmission cleared, a voice crackled through the comms. "This is Commander Ilara of the Turan Resistance Fleet. We are here to assist you." Cole's eyes widened. A Turan Resistance Fleet. He had thought they were myths, stories whispered among the last surviving human colonies. But now, it seemed, they were real. And they had come to help. "Resistance Fleet," Cole muttered under his breath. "You've got to be kidding me." Kim looked at him, her expression serious. "What do we do, Captain?" For a moment, Cole stood frozen. This was the break they needed, but how could they trust these new arrivals? The Zorath Empire had done everything in their power to wipe out humanity. Could another human faction be trusted? "Open a secure channel to them," Cole said, his mind racing. "Let's get some answers first." The screen flickered, and a new image appeared. A woman, tall and composed, with short dark hair and a military uniform that matched the colors of the Revenant, appeared on screen. "Captain Cole," she began, her voice steady, "I am Commander Ilara, and we are part of the last remnants of humanity who fled Earth. We've been fighting the Zorath Empire in secret for years. Your mission has caught our attention, and we want to assist. The fight doesn't have to be fought alone." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, Cole couldn't speak. Was this real? Were they truly being offered the help they so desperately needed? "How do we know we can trust you?" Cole asked cautiously. Commander Ilara's gaze was unwavering. "You have no reason to trust us, Captain, but the Zorath are our common enemy. We've been working from the shadows, waiting for the right moment. Now is that moment." Cole looked at his crew. They were as exhausted as he was, but they still believed in the fight. This was their chance. "All right," Cole said, his voice resolute. "Let's do this. We fight together." Kim quickly began working with the Resistance Fleet to coordinate their approach. The Zorath ships, still advancing, had no idea what was coming. Soon, they would find themselves surrounded by not one, but two human fleets. As the plan took shape, Cole felt a surge of hope. He knew the battle would be fierce, but now, they weren't alone. The Resistance had shown up when humanity needed them most, and they would make the Zorath Empire pay for their brutality. "Prepare the Revenant for a full assault," Cole ordered. "And make sure our new allies are ready. We're about to show the galaxy what happens when you mess with humanity." As the two fleets prepared to unite, Captain Cole knew one thing for certain. The Zoreth were about to face their worst nightmare. The battle to end all battles. The moment the Terran Resistance Fleet and the Revenant aligned, the tension in the air grew thick with anticipation. Captain Cole stood at the helm, staring out at the approaching Zoreth fleet, their massive warships creeping forward like a storm ready to unleash its fury. "All hands, braced for impact," Cole said, his voice steady but laced with a quiet intensity. His crew moved quickly, their years of training kicking in as they readied the ship for the upcoming battle. Kim, the tactical officer, was at her post, her eyes glued to the scanners. The fleet of Zoreth warships, dark and menacing, outnumbered them nearly 3-1. But now, with the Terran Resistance Fleet by their side, the odds were slightly better, though still grim. "Captain, the Resistance ships are in position. They're ready to strike." Cole nodded, his jaw tight. "We fight for Earth. We fight for humanity." The Revenant and the Resistance Fleet were positioned on either side of the Zoreth, a perfect trap. The Zoreth were used to their overwhelming strength, used to fighting from a position of dominance. But they didn't know what was coming. Humanity was about to show them something they'd never seen before. "Activate the weapons," Cole ordered. The Revenant shook slightly as its guns powered up, preparing to unleash destruction upon the enemy. The Zoreth fleet continued to advance, oblivious to the human trap closing in around them. As the two fleets closed the distance, the tension was palpable, a taut string just waiting to snap. And then, with a sudden flash, it happened. The Resistance fleet fired first, their ships launching a barrage of missiles and energy blasts. The explosions lit up the cold vacuum of space, streaking across the dark canvas of the galaxy like fireworks of destruction. The Revenant followed suit, its own weapons lighting up the void with a deadly accuracy. The Zoreth, caught off guard, scrambled to return fire, but the surprise of the human alliance threw them into disarray. Ships were torn apart in a matter of seconds, their massive forms twisting and breaking as the energy blasts ripped through their shields. "Keep pushing. We can't let them regroup," Cole shouted, his eyes narrowing as the chaos unfolded. The Revenant weaved through the enemy fire, its advanced technology allowing it to dodge and retaliate with terrifying precision. Kim, working tirelessly at her station, coordinated the ship's movements, tracking the movements of every Zoreth ship. "Captain, we've got a lead ship incoming," Kim called out. "It's the Zoreth flagship, the Imperator. If we take that down, we'll cripple their command structure." "Target the Imperator," Cole ordered without hesitation. "Full power to the forward cannons. This is our chance." The Revenant locked onto the Zoreth flagship. Its powerful weapon systems hummed to life, and in a single focused moment, the ship fired. The blast struck the Imperator head-on, its shields shattering upon impact. The flagship rocked violently, its hull cracking as the energy from the Revenant's attack coursed through it. The Imperator retaliated with a barrage of its own, but the Revenant was too quick, evading the incoming fire. A second shot from the Revenant slammed into the Imperator's bridge, sending it into a tailspin. "Yes," Kim shouted, her voice filled with exhilaration. "We've taken down their flagship." But the battle wasn't over. The remaining Zoreth ships were still fighting fiercely, and now the humans had to deal with the Zoreth's desperate retaliation. The remaining warships fought with a frenzy, lashing out with everything they had. Cole's grip tightened on the command chair. "Stay focused. We end this now." As the battle raged on, the Zoreth began to break apart. Their ships, once feared across the galaxy, were being torn apart by the united forces of humanity. The once invincible empire was crumbling under the might of a single human ship and its unexpected allies. Kim continued to issue commands, keeping the Revenant moving, avoiding the Zoreth's desperate counterattacks. The Resistance fleet, now fully engaged, pressed on, fighting with the same ferocity that had once been humanity's trademark. In the heart of the battle, a powerful explosion rocked the battlefield. One of the Zoreth ships, a massive dreadnought, was engulfed in a brilliant explosion as its core went critical. It was the final blow, a symbol of the Zoreth's impending defeat. Cole let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He stared out at the wreckage of the Zoreth fleet, his mind still processing the scale of their victory. "We did it," he muttered. "Humanity. We just took down the Zoreth Empire." But even as he said the words, Cole knew that this was only the beginning. The Zoreth had underestimated humanity, and now they had learned their lesson the hard way. "Prepare for anything," Cole said, his voice firm. "We've won this battle, but the war's far from over." The dawn of a new era. The stars of the galaxy glowed eerily as the remnants of the Zoreth Empire's once mighty fleet drifted in space, a testament to the human resolve and courage that had just shattered their reign. The debris of war scattered in every direction, and the once feared enemy ships were now nothing more than smoldering wrecks, floating lifeless in the void. Captain Cole stood at the helm of the Revenant, his eyes scanning the wreckage on the tactical screen. His heart was heavy with the weight of the victory, but his mind couldn't shake the thought that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had been thrown into chaos, and while the Zoreth were reeling from their loss, others might soon rise to fill the power vacuum. "We did it," Kim said, her voice filled with disbelief. She leaned back in her seat, her eyes glued to the display. "We beat them. The Zoreth, they're finished." Captain Cole nodded, his expression grim. "The Zoreth may be defeated, but there are many more out there who will seek to take their place. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." The crew of the Revenant was still catching their breath after the battle, the adrenaline slowly leaving their systems as the gravity of their victory settled in. The Resistance fleet, which had been critical to the success of the mission, began to regroup and chart their next steps. The human alliance had struck a blow, but the fight was far from over. "Humanity's victory today has sent a clear message," Cole continued. "The galaxy isn't ruled by the Zoreth anymore. It's ruled by us, and we'll never let anyone take that away." His words echoed throughout the ship. For the first time in centuries, the people of Earth, and now the entire human race, had proved their strength. The Revenant had led the charge, a symbol of humanity's resilience, defiance, and unyielding spirit. But Cole knew the price had been high, and the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. "Captain," came the voice of the ship's communication officer. "We've received a transmission from the Resistance leaders. They want to discuss terms of alliance." "Put them through," Cole said, his gaze fixed on the empty void outside the ship's window. A holographic image flickered to life before him, displaying the faces of the leaders who had fought alongside them in the battle. Their expressions were a mixture of respect and wariness, knowing that this victory would alter the balance of power in the galaxy. "We've seen what humanity is capable of," one of the Resistance leaders said, his voice steady but respectful. "Your victory today has changed everything. The Zoreth thought they could dominate us, but you've shown that the power of a single human ship can shatter their hold over the galaxy." Cole didn't flinch. "We fight for freedom, for our future. If we don't take a stand now, the galaxy will never know peace, and we'll be left in the dark again." The leaders nodded, understanding the weight of his words. The Zoreth might be gone, but new threats would emerge, and the galaxy would forever remember the day when humanity rose up against its oppressors. "We're ready to work with you," another leader said, her eyes meeting Cole's through the hologram. "Let's make sure the Zoreth's defeat isn't just a victory for us, but for every species who's been oppressed. Humanity can lead the way. Together, we can create a new order." Cole's heart swelled with a sense of pride, but he didn't let it show. "We've earned this victory. Now let's make sure it counts." As the transmission ended, Captain Cole turned to his crew, his expression hardening once more. "Get ready. We're not done. We've started something, and we'll see it through to the end." The Revenant's engines hummed as it began to chart its course through the galaxy. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just a pawn in the game of galactic politics. They were the players. The dawn of a new era had arrived. As the ship moved toward the unknown, a message lingered in the air. Humanity had proven its might, and now no force in the galaxy could stand against them. In this final part, the story concludes with a moment of triumph, but also foreshadows the continuing challenges humanity will face as they now lead the charge in the galaxy. The Zorith Empire has been defeated, but Cole's recognition that this victory is only the beginning provides the necessary cliffhanger, maintaining the suspense for future adventures and highlighting humanity's new place in the galaxy. The alliance with other species and the idea of a new order makes the future uncertain but full of potential.